one thing that's trending right now is Ozempic.
Very popular diabetes and weight loss drugs like Ozempic.
Right, Ozempic.
Drugs like Ozempic.
Drugs like Ozempic.
A lot of celebrities have been using that. A lot of people, rather than being fit, they want to be thin.
They'll not end up thin. This drug is going to create more obesity, more diabetes. When people go on GLP-1 drugs, they can't eat because they feel nauseated, they feel satiated. If you eat food, you'll throw up. This is a permanent, irreversible damage that nobody's talking about. Why is all government sleeping? Why is CDSU sleeping? Why are we prescribing these drugs to kids who are 10 years?
In this journey of you coaching so many people and running this company, what is that one common pattern you've seen in people when they give up?
Guilt definitely happens in people. They get too comfortable and they feel that there's no necessity to sustain the results or increase the results.
You chose Rohit Sharma as a face on the brand, right? Why specifically Rohit Sharma? I'm very curious to know.
There's a good reason why he's Rohit Sharma. And he's good. And he knows he's good.
What happens in the process of weight loss when you drink alcohol?
The obvious effect on people who drink alcohol is that their metabolism kind of goes down. As a result, you gain weight. There have been studies where they've found formaldehyde in almost all major alcohol brands. That's what results in cancer cells. Again, see, healthcare is not...
Go ahead, say it. Say it.
Okay, so it's not...
Hi, we just finished shooting an amazing podcast with JC, who's the founder of FITTR. The intention of releasing this podcast this week, though we had a lot of other lineups, was simply because of the kind of noise that is out there about Ozempic and Mounjaro and what it truly does to the body. JC has dissected throughout, right? He talks about how to get fit, what happens when you consume fat, what happens to your body when you consume alcohol, and what truly happens to your body when you take something like an Ozempic and how hazardous it can be on your body on a very, very scientific ground. So I definitely think this podcast is going to open up your mind towards fitness, because this is a guy who's been in the fitness for the last 25 years and he's trained so many HNIs and he's worked with so many people across the world and helped them become fit. And that's exactly why he does FITTR. So when we were doing a lot of research about you, I've known you for a very long time with squads and seeing that online community grow on Facebook. So when we were actually doing research on you, you call yourself an accidental entrepreneur, right? Why?
I don't come from a business background. And I didn't have intention of building a business. It started off from a small WhatsApp group. People liked what I was doing. They told other people told other people. The idea of me starting squads, which was the community, was basically to help people answer their queries on health and fitness.
Okay.
So I have this innate desire to educate people even since I was in schools and colleges. So even in my college, for example, if you talk to some of my friends from my old days, they'll tell you that I used to help my colleagues understand complex subjects.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had like 100% attendance in my college days.
Okay.
And even though I'm not very brilliant, I have this habit of understanding something in depth.
Okay.
Right? So when I understand something, I have the habit of going in detail of that subject. So I used to teach people.
Is it because you're a curious person?
I'm very curious, yes.
Okay. Not to understand things on a superficial level, but to really dive deep and understand.
Yes.
That. Okay.
Yes.
How has that helped shape FITTR? That curiosity element in you?
I think wherever FITTR has reached, whatever decisions we have made, they were not driven by copy pasting. Like we didn't copy paste any of the things that we have done in FITTR. When we launched online coaching, there were no online coaching platforms. Even if there were none in India, right? And even if there were none in India. There were outside, there were some platforms, but they were doing it horribly wrong.
Okay.
And today those platforms don't exist.
Okay.
Right. So when we did it, it was completely novel. But I was sure that this was going to work because it was already working, as evident from my WhatsApp groups. Right. After that, when we got into this coaching style, the behavioral training, all of those things, that how we need to train people, this was completely based on consumer feedback. So I was actively listening at what are some of the points that can make this thing fail, like the one that you mentioned.
Yes.
Right. So it's not like I'm going to take the feedback and sit on it. I'm going to actively work on it and figure out ways to fix it.
Okay.
So that's how the company has evolved. We ask ourselves the questions that people ask us, and then we internalize those questions, and then we try to answer those questions.
Okay. Take me back to day one of FITTR when it started. How was your mindset back then? And how is it right now?
I was very young. It was very exciting.
Okay.
Exciting, thrilling, scary.
Yeah.
Lots of emotions.
What were you scared of?
If it's like a one-time thing, if it's not going to grow, because in the first month itself, we did a business of some 9.39 lakhs. And I'm the guy who was getting a salary of 1 lakh, right? Historically, I'd never seen so much money in my bank account at one go. By May, we had 1 crore rupees in our bank account, right? So in a matter of 5 months, when you have 1 crore rupees in your company's bank account, you're scared, you're thrilled, you're excited. And then after that, a lot of things happened subsequently, because when we built out, people who were part of the company, some did believe that the company will grow. Some did not believe that the company will grow so much. Right?
Okay.
So when the company started growing so much, some of them wanted to leave the company. They wanted to create a parallel company, and they did. Right. So and when they did, they also used some underhand tactics, like taking people from the company, trying to malign my image and everything. And it caused a great deal of emotional and, mental trouble. And had it been not for the people who have stuck with me now, I don't think we'd have taken off. Like the company would have died in the first year itself.
This was in which year?
2016.
2016. But you've also mentioned in 2023, you'd lost close to 40 crores.
So 40 crores on paper, it's not actually 40 crores.
Okay.
So out of that 40 crores, what happens is 15 crore rupees is like basically when you issue ESOPs.
Oh, right. Got it.
So that shows up on your balance sheet.
Got it.
Right. So not on a cash
but
level,
then you mentioned something saying because of bad decisions.
Yes.
Right. What are the bad decisions that you made?
Overarching on everything that investors were telling me, ignoring my own intuition, hiring people without understanding the actual need for hiring them. And I think there was a frenzy at the time. So even though I'm very principally and, I'm a core guy. So I stick to one thing for a very long time. And that's always been my philosophy. I somehow let my, I tried to suppress my intuition and went with the narrative that it's okay to grow at all cost. But it's not okay. Even though the whole world was saying it's okay at the time, I should have stood firm on my ground. I didn't do that. I should have done that. Kind of did. It didn't resonate well with the investors.
Okay.
So it was me trying to balance between pleasing them and trying to, convince myself, hey, what's the worst that can happen? I should have put my foot down more strongly.
So emotionally, how was it for you, 2023?
So 2022, actually.
Okay.
2023, we were breaking even. So this was the whole discussion I'm talking about. This is more like 2021 it started. 2022 is when the results were like really bad. 2023 is when we fixed things. So that's when I put the foot down.
Okay.
And thankfully, the market sanity had started returning back, right? So people said, okay, now we have to focus on profitability. And like, of course.
Not just burn money.
Yeah. And so we did that. And we showed them that, hey, we can fix things. So 2023, we broke even. This year, we are profitable.
The reason why I'm asking you about the emotional turmoil that you went through is because generally men are expected to have a strong face no matter what happens, right? How did you deal with that? Putting up that strong front?
Yeah, I don't believe in that. I present my vulnerable side from time to time. And I don't believe in that because, sure, I would hide that from my close ones because I don't want them to affect it. For example, my wife, my daughter, they had no idea I was going through all of these things and that I was trying to mortgage my house and everything. But some people in the company knew. Not everybody in the company knew. Because I don't believe, and I usually talk these things after the fact.
Okay.
So I'm not talking about these things when I'm going through it, because I don't want people to empathize with me. So it's not right, but I guess
you don't like people to empathize with you.
I mean, like I said, it's not right, and I have no reason to feel that way. But
generally, tell me, founders, right? Like now we've started running our own company. I understand how every day is a new day and how it's challenging and the adversity makes you stronger. But what is one thing? Because a lot of young people, because the entire entrepreneurship journey is so glorified on social media, everybody says it's money, it's fame and all of that. What do you think is the dark side of being a founder or an entrepreneur that the world does not talk about?
I don't think there's a lot of money in entrepreneurship.
All right.
Unless until you're like a blockbuster entrepreneur. Right? So the way you have to understand is that founders don't get money upfront. Founders draw a salary, right? Founders have shares. Now, founders from time to time have the luxury to liquidate some of their equity, depending on if they are meeting certain milestones or some numbers, right? But that does not happen all the time. In fact, there are founders I know firsthand who have built companies which at one point of time had $1 billion in valuation. But then the companies went down and the founders were left with literally nothing, right? So there are clauses, basically. So when you sign the term sheet, just read it carefully. And there is money when everything works out great in the end. And again, you have to be like really, really smart as a founder to be able to make money for yourself, right? But to think that just because you're a founder, just because you have raised like millions of dollars of funds, that does not mean you're getting those funds. Those funds are companies' funds.
Companies' funds, yeah.
You can't take even a single dime out of that money unless until it's part of your salary.
Correct.
Yeah. So this is an illusion that founders make a lot of money.
Man, it's so glamorous.
Most of the times, if the companies don't perform, founders are the ones who end up going bankrupt. See, the problem is that we only look at success stories and we don't look at how many people are failing. Because everybody is looking at Kunal Shah, everybody is looking at Vijay Shekhar Sharma, or let's say, everybody is looking at Zomato's founder, right? Why are we not looking at founders that once had like a great business, but now are nowhere to be seen? Are we asking them if they are doing financially well or no? Chances are they're not. Because founders also end up raising debt. I would have too. If my company was, if Rain Matter didn't fund us, I would have raised debt. I would have mortgaged my house. And imagine if the company didn't perform well, I would have to sell my house.
Okay.
Give it to the banks, obviously. And then what? It's a lot of luck. And there's so much of uncertainty. It's crazy. So it's like you have to balance it very carefully. It's not easy to be a founder of a big company or even a medium-sized company. There's too much of uncertainty. And emotionally, it's draining, it's exhausting.
How did the connection with Nithin Kamath happen?
So we were training HNIs.
Okay.
And I sent out a mail to Nithin.
It was a random mail.
Not a random mail. I said, look, let me take care of your family's health. Right. So we were sending out to HNIs and we were already training some famous HNIs. So usually my EA types out those emails on my behalf and sends to top HNIs. Right. So she did. Nobody was expecting a response. And I think this is Nithin's best quality. You send him an email, he will respond.
Okay.
Right. And this is also a quality in me that if it comes from random people, chances are 99 out of 100 times I would respond to the emails.
Okay.
So I don't ignore anybody's emails.
Okay.
Yeah, I was there once.
Okay, that's
right,
great.
So, yeah, so I was there once. So emails, I do respond. If people send me emails, I respond, or I try to like send them to people who can help. Right. So Nithin did. And then he called me for a meeting. Me and Bala, we went. One thing led to another. He said, I've heard about you guys. You're doing good work. Let me and my team know if you are looking for some funds. And turned out at the time we were in trouble. So I said, sure. So they went through the entire DD. And even though company was making losses at the time, there were signs of resilience. And so he asked me, JC, can you turn this thing around? I was like, sure, I can. Then after a few emotional exchanges from my side, he was convinced. And then it's like, sure, let's go ahead and do it. So then they ended up investing in us.
Okay. When did this happen?
2020. So last year.
Oh, last year, 24.
Yeah,
okay.
2024.
Okay. Now January. I'm very curious because I watched the entire podcast with Bryan Johnson also. Like all of you were there. When he actually walked out saying the air quality was not that great.
Yeah.
What was the conversation inside that did not come out on the camera? Like how did you guys take it? Because we live here. This is what we breathe on an everyday basis.
Yeah.
And somebody says, no, this is something that I can't even breathe and I'm going to leave the room.
Yeah.
How did it hit you guys?
We were all shocked. I think Bryan had some clear demands. Again, see, this is a discussion between Nithin's team, Nikhil's team and Bryan's team. I'm not fully aware because when I went there, I was even not informed that Bryan's going to be there, or maybe they did, but my team messed it out or didn't tell me. And so when I went there, I noticed something very peculiar, that there's an air purifier, which is fine. And then there's an air purifier monitor, which is kept on the dining table.
Okay, that measures.
The AQI. I'm like, why would you want to keep that on somebody's dining table? Unless you had some use for it later on. Right? So it was part of the discussion. It was part of a PR campaign that I was able to figure out later on.
Got it.
When he was in India, his documentary was going to come on Netflix.
Okay.
And so in India, he came primarily to promote his documentary. And I think he did multiple podcasts
and interviews at the same time. Yes.
A lot of influencers around the same time.
Yes.
And so I think with Nikhil's audience, he wanted to make a point which will become a headline.
Okay.
And so with Bryan Johnson, if you look at his history, this is how he came into limelight.
Okay.
If you read everything about Bryan Johnson, it's not that he's in limelight for anything which is logical, which is adding to the scientific know-how, or which is like some sort of a deeply philosophical conversation. He's always in limelight because of his ridiculous PR tactics. Replacing his son's own blood with his son's blood. Talking about penile erections at night, measuring those. Then the whole air pollution issue, and that he was on, wearing masks during a mid podcast. These are not media-picked headlines. These headlines are created, curated, and disseminated in the media to get into limelight.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is crazy because with the influence of media and especially social media, we absolutely have no idea what is true and what is not.
Yeah.
Right? And especially about the biohacking and having an aversion towards dying.
Yeah.
Because dying is a natural process, right? Somebody having so much of an aversion towards dying and saying, I don't want to die. What do you think is the thought process behind that?
Like I said, it's just having a contrarian view and getting the world's attention. And see, today, I think people have proven that attention, whether it's good or bad, is eventually good for you, right? So everybody is screaming for attention. We live in a time where controversy creates money. So I think Bryan Johnson lives by that MO. Some people don't. He's fine as long as creating noise. He knows that half of the people will like him, half of the people will hate him. As long as there's enough people who like him, he's selling them stuff.
How do you find a balance? Because certain controversial things, they sell.
Yeah.
And you have certain values and ethics for yourself and for the company.
Yeah.
How do you find a balance?
I don't believe in that kind of marketing. So I stay away from sudden growth because if you see, like I've been training for 25 years. And so everything I have built, I've built brick by brick by brick, right? Be it my muscles, be it my knowledge, be it the company. We don't believe in short-term growth. And even though for a brief moment during the time we got swayed away, but we did that correction. And now we firmly believe that any amount of these tactics, they will not stand the test of time. And we've seen historical examples now. The examples are available for everybody to see. What goes up quickly comes down quickly.
Right.
So staying in limelight is dangerous.
Mm.
It can cause huge amount of mental pain, agony. I've seen my fair bit of virality. I went from 60,000 followers to 500,000 followers within a matter of months. It's not cool.
Why?
I hated it.
Why?
Because, like I said, when you even when you are trying to do something, people will always poke fun at you, or they will basically ridicule you.
Okay.
For growing also. See, understand that humans are not comfortable when somebody or something grows too fast.
Mm. Is it because they cannot be where you are at this point of time?
It's not that they are, even if they want it, they can't. It's just not, how do you say, it's just not built into us. We are not comfortable with things that we don't understand. And crazy growth is something that we don't understand. Okay. We have to tie that growth to something that makes sense. So, for example, hard work. If you can tie somebody's growth back to hard work, then people are like, okay, this guy worked really hard.
Oh, he deserves it.
He deserves it. Right? But if somebody undeserving goes up, and again, this is in people's mind. You could be very well deserving.
Yes.
As long as people think that this guy is not deserving,
okay,
they will not allow you to grow after a while. And the forces change. So the same people who will put you on the pedestal, the same people will put you down equally fiercely. And so it's very dangerous. So you want to grow at a level where people can see your hard work, they can appreciate your hard work. Focus on the long run. Because at the end of the day, as an entrepreneur, how am I growing? I'm growing by catering to the people. As long as there are hundreds of thousands of people who can vouch that this guy is working hard every single day and then growing, it's fine. If there is nobody who's seen my hard work and I'm just growing, and people are like, how the fuck is this guy growing? They don't like me. It's as simple as this.
Do you have a need to be liked by people?
Everybody has a need to be liked by people. I mean, why would you ask that?
Because a couple of times you mentioned how people perceive us, especially during our times of growth. It determines if they like us or if they don't like us. But if you've put in 25 years of hard work that nobody has actually seen, but all of a sudden you got this limelight and you've hit the 500K followers, like 1 million followers, why is it that you're not able to accept it? Just because somebody else didn't see the hard work. You worked really hard for 25 years.
No, so fundamentally different things.
Okay.
The part that I grew from there, let's say less than 60,000 followers to 500,000 followers, I don't expect people to see my hard work there.
Okay.
But that does not change the fact that I still want people to like me.
Okay.
Right? I mean, why are we doing what we are doing at the end of the day? It's not all for money. It is because we want to be accepted. We want love. And that's the fundamental reason why we live in a society. If you're not seeking validation, why are you living in this world? Go stay in the jungle. See, we can deny our basic impulses or just embrace them. I don't think it makes somebody bigger when somebody says, hey, I don't care about people. Of course you do. That's why you're living in this human society. If you didn't, we wouldn't know you. You would be living in some jungle or some Himalayas with nobody aware of your existence. So that would be hypocritical.
Right.
I'm not hypocrite. I'm saying I want people to like me.
Okay.
I do things which are right, and sometimes people hate me for that.
Okay.
But I know for a fact that those things are right, and in the long term, eventually people will like me.
Yes.
Because they know that there was a fight and this guy stood his ground.
Yes.
I didn't sell out.
Yes.
So
I
I
saw
want
the
people
story
to
you posted this
I want
morning,
people
yes.
to like me,
Yes.
but they'll like me
For the right
for
reasons.
the right reasons. And those guys will vouch for the fact that when everybody was becoming a sellout, I stood my ground and I did not sell out. So in the short term, I can compromise the fact that some of them might hate me, but in the long run, I know that they will like me. They'll vouch for my ethics and integrity.
Okay, let's say in your early 20s, your views about life was a specific way and you stood for that. And then after you started becoming wiser because of your experiences and all of that, the views about life have changed, but this time not in the same direction, but it has changed in a contradictory way. How would you address that? You stood for something 10 years back, now you're standing up for something. How would you tell this to people?
See, I don't think it's fundamentally different.
Okay.
Things change, causes change, but the definition of right and wrong does not necessarily change as long as you are abiding by the law and you're talking about something which is unlawful, unethical, as defined by the law. Then it's fundamentally the same thing. So I stood for the same causes, I stood for the same reasons that I stand for now. I stood against things that were unlawful, unethical, and they were fundamentally, hurting people. I'm standing again for the same thing, which is unlawful, unethical, and hurting humans at a fundamental level.
So your core still remains the same, it's just evolving with time.
The causes are changing.
Okay.
The causes are changing, but not the response.
Okay, got it. Has your definition of success changed over time?
No, I think it's like even back then I knew that success is not money.
Okay.
I firmly believe that.
What do you believe success is for you?
So for me, success is, again, I don't think there's there's a right way to put it, but I think success is every day, you are doing the things that you want to do. Like, for example, if you ask me, do I feel successful? I think I feel quite successful. In my personal relationships, the fact that I'm a father and I have 2 beautiful daughters, I have 3 dogs, I live in a beautiful house, I've made my parents proud, right? So in all ways, and I have decent amount of money, I drive a nice car, I even have a super bike, and I'm a founder of a company where enough people respect me, and social media also people respect me, right? So in my own way, I do have a sense of success, but is this like, it's not like a milestone.
Okay.
Because like I said, it's like, you're learning something. So there's no end of learning. There's no end of success. So success feels like a milestone, which I can't somehow, internalize in my head. So when people say, what do you mean by success? They have a fixed definition that this means success. I'm like, no, I don't understand that word. I just feel that word does not make sense. But it feels very finite. It feels very specific. So I don't.
It just contracts you.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
Okay. Do you meditate?
No.
No? Okay. You're quite philosophical, actually.
I do train in the gym.
Okay.
That's kind of my meditation.
So you're in a state of flow when you're training in the gym.
Yes. So and we have this amazing person. We just got in. He's Colonel Shekhar Gupta.
Okay.
So during one of our conversations, he asked me the same thing. Do I meditate? I told him, no. Should I? He's like, look, meditation is what? Meditation is basically absence of ego.
Yes.
What is ego? Ego is your self.
An identity, yes.
Right? So if you are able to detach your ego, that's meditation.
By doing anything.
Yes. Right. So I'm like, okay, I'm doing that. So I'm fine.
All right. I was very curious. When I was sitting upstairs, I was very curious about the conversation around sleep that a couple of your team members were having. And on the board, there were multiple things written about sleep. And all that we know about sleep is in order for you to be healthy, you need to have 8 hours of sleep. But help us understand what are the different stages of sleep and why is sleep so important?
Well, your body has processes, right? And these processes include your cellular growth, cellular repair, cellular death, right? So everything in your body, it grows and does its work and then dies, right? So when you're awake, it's basically all those processes are taking place. Now, those processes are damaged. Something is damaged. You need to sleep for repair work, right? For example, if you are driving a car for too long, at the end of the day, you will have to come back and put it in the garage. If the car is damaged, you'll have to put it in service. If the car's tire is punctured, you can't replace the tire while the car is moving. Right? So same is with our body. We undergo constant physical, mental, chemical stress. So we call them insults in biological terms. So body undergoes chemical, physical, and mental insult. And for it to recover from these insults and become stronger, to be able to function the same way as yesterday, it needs sleep.
Okay.
Right? And because there's different kinds of chemical insults, mental insults and physical insults, your body also goes through different stages of sleep to recover from those insults.
Okay.
So if there's a physical insult, the body will go through, let's say, a deep sleep, where the physiological processes allow for recovery of your physical self.
Okay.
If there's chemical and mental insults, the body will go through, let's say, a REM sleep.
Okay.
And chemical insults could be mental as well as physical. So I'm saying if there's a mental insult, or even if there's no mental insult, but let's say there's damage being done, the body will have to go through the repair process while you're REM sleep. And these phases are then connected with the help of your light sleep.
Okay.
Right? So when you sleep, you are either in light sleep, you're either in deep sleep or REM sleep, and you keep on switching.
What is REM sleep?
REM is your rapid eye movement.
Okay.
So basically, during your REM sleep, it's characterized by rapid movement of your eyes, and this is a dream state.
Okay.
So when this happens, what your body does is it paralyzes. Your body is paralyzed, kind of.
Okay.
All right, and so you get nightmares, or let's say good dreams or whatever, to keep you engaged so that you don't move your body.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. And that's when your body fixes your mental self. So it keeps you busy. A nightmare or dreams is actually a way for the body to keep you busy. And when you're busy, when you can't move, you're in kind of like a paralyzed state. That's when your body recovers your mind.
This is crazy. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, have you used old age computers like Windows?
Yes.
So you'd know that there used to be a process called defragmentation.
Okay.
Right. So when the memory is full, you run a defrag.
Okay.
And all the blocks, which were like here and there and there, they'll neatly get arranged in a proper and free up disk space.
That's exactly what happens in the body.
Yes. In the mind. So when you process or synthesize different kinds of information, right, this information is not neatly organized. So the body then starts organizing this information neatly. For example, if I ask you, what did you eat yesterday? If you think long enough, you might be able to, recall what you ate. But if I ask you, what did you eat, let's say a week back, and unless you are somebody who eats the same thing, it will be very difficult for you to. But if you think, you'll be able to pull it out. This is because your mind organizes things. It's still there.
Okay.
Everything is there, but it's organized in the order of priority. Like how you have ROM and RAM. So everything is getting stored in your hard disk. But the RAM is where the actual program is getting loaded. Right? So all of this organization is what happens in your brain during REM sleep.
So generally when somebody does not get an 8-hour sleep,
and this process gets affected.
And there is constant damage that is happening.
Constant damage that is
How long does it take for them to actually see the damage visibly?
So look, if you're younger, generally your physiological repair processes are faster.
Okay.
But it can affect your growth severely.
Okay.
So for example, and see, body has different kinds of mechanisms. So it can always do compromise between different kinds of systems. See, our body has critical systems and not so critical systems. For example, your heart, it keeps you alive. Your brain, it keeps you alive. Right? So these are, for example, the circulatory, the respiratory, the cardiovascular, all of these are important systems to keep you alive.
They're critical.
They're critical systems, so primary systems. Then we have secondary and tertiary systems. For example, if your skin, even if it gets dry or it gets bad,
we're not going to die.
You're not going to die.
Correct.
Right? Similarly, if you start losing your hair, you're not going to die. Dark circles under the eye, you're not going to die.
Okay.
So what happens is, when you are not constantly getting sleep, and the repair processes, which take care of primary as well as secondary systems, so body will first start sacrificing your secondary systems to maintain the same kind of functions in the primary systems.
Okay.
So the first stage of lack of sleep is you'll start experiencing poor sleep, poor skin, poor hair, dark circles, poor skin. All of these symptoms will appear first. Over a period of time, these symptoms will keep getting worse and worse and worse.
Okay.
And then it will start affecting your primary symptoms also.
So this is the body literally screaming out to us saying, hey, listen, I don't have enough sleep.
Yes. So anything, not just sleep. Sleep is also important. Your nutrition is important. Your protein is important. Your hydration is important. Your movement is important. If you are not taking care of your body, the secondary symptoms are basically telling your body that, hey, something is wrong. Look, I'm trying to fix your primary symptoms, but I'm sacrificing these secondary symptoms. So your reproduction, your hair, skin, nails, bones, all of these are secondary.
Okay.
And the body can keep sacrificing them for as long it has to conserve primary functions.
Okay.
When it cannot sacrifice them enough, then it starts affecting your primary symptoms. So lack of sleep can also cause heart attack in a long enough timeline. It can also cause stroke in a long enough time.
Because it has reached the threshold?
It has reached that threshold.
Okay. So now, is sleeping between 10 to 6 very similar to sleeping between 2 a.m. to 8 hours from there? Is it the same?
Not really.
Explain.
Okay, because body is made up of a circadian cycle. You have testosterone, you have melatonin, you have cortisol. If we look at all the mammals, they have a fixed sleeping pattern. Only humans are the one where we decided to establish a chronotype. We said, look, humans have different chronotypes. So some people feel sleepy in this time, some people feel sleepy in this time. A problem is this derivation comes from observational data. But we didn't classify healthiness and unhealthiness of these individuals. We merely pointed out that these guys are sleeping at this time. So this is fine, and these guys are sleeping at this time, so this is fine.
Okay.
We didn't compare their relative health or relative biomarkers.
It was just based on when they want to sleep.
Yes.
On a pattern. Okay.
But we didn't look at the outcome of whether this group of people are healthy or that group of people are healthy. What we have known so far is that chronically sleeping late affects your vitamin D levels. So most of the people who sleep late, they typically have low levels of vitamin D. Now, vitamin D is an important hormone as well as vitamin. It's a cofactor for different kinds of physiological processes. It also acts as an antioxidant, right?
Okay.
So it protects your liver also.
Okay.
Right? It also has a role in promotion of your growth hormones.
Okay.
Right? So a lot of things. So if you're not sleeping at the right time, it can affect your vitamin D levels. It can then affect your liver. It can affect growth. Right? So there's going to be a difference between people who are sleeping at, let's say, earlier time and people who are sleeping at a late time.
Okay.
It will be difficult to compare them side by side and say both the groups are similarly healthy unless until you analyze both of their biomarkers over a longitudinal period.
What is the best time to sleep? Go to bed?
As early as possible in the evening.
Okay, which is around 9ish?
I'd say 8 to 9 I know.
Yeah.
As per science, 8 to 9, and even earlier is better.
Okay, if 8 to 9.
I myself don't sleep at 8 to 9.
That was my next question.
Yeah,
I'm going to come down
sleep.
to that. So if 8 to 9, let's assume 9 o'clock is the best time for us to sleep. How many hours before should we have our dinner?
Earlier is better.
Okay.
So there's science that suggests that that if your digestive process happens during your sleep, it can affect your repair processes that has to start during sleep, because every physiological process in the body requires currency, requires energy, right? So when you are digesting, a significant amount of your resources from the body is allocated towards digestion. If your digestive process and your sleep repair process is kind of overlapped, the resources are not properly allocated. Like this is basically how the body's physiology is and how biochemistry works in the body.
Okay.
Do we have concrete data on it? No, it's very difficult to track these kind of things. But at a physiological level, this is how it works.
Okay.
Right? But if, let's say, you have dinner early and you have completely digested your food, obviously the resources will get free. And those resources will then more efficiently be used for your repair process when you sleep.
Okay.
So having an early dinner is good for you.
Okay. So you trained Nas daily for 6 months, right?
Nuseir, yeah.
And I remember him posting that video. It was the toughest 6 months of my life, like getting trained by you. What I want to understand is he travels a lot, right? How did he manage that? Because that is a common thread in a lot of people. I travel a lot. I need to eat healthy. I don't know how to work out. How do people manage that when they're traveling a lot?
So Nuseir is an anomaly. Okay. He's one of the most disciplined guys I have had a chance to work with in my whole life.
Okay.
He's more disciplined than I am.
Okay.
So the extent of his discipline goes to a point where it's like, how is this even humanly possible?
Explain, give me an example.
For example, he was there at Connect Fest, Goa.
Okay.
We had finished our workout. Around 2 o'clock, he comes to me and says, JC, do you want to work out again?
2 in the morning?
No. We finished the workout in the morning.
Okay, got it.
And then he comes again, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and he asked me, JC, do you want to train again? Like, didn't we just finish the workout in the morning? He said, oh, but I have my calendar free. I have 1 hour free on my calendar. So I thought maybe I'll work out again. Right? So that's the kind of a person he is. And yeah, he's like way too disciplined. And I don't think people understand like how much disciplined you have to be someone like Nuseir. It's crazy. He's a genius guy. Literally.
Okay.
He's genius. I mean, he's a Harvard graduate and everything. He's an engineer, right? So I mean, doesn't take, and he's pretty successful too. So he's very disciplined.
Right. So help us understand, when you're physically fit, when you're building that resilience, when you're building that kind of a mental toughness by working out, how does it help you in other areas of your life?
I think one of the things is that you understand that life in all senses, physical, mental, social, emotional, it follows the same principles. Right? When you're building yourself financially, is it easy? Like if you're doing it legitimately, it's not easy, it's tough, right? But you keep repeating the process. It takes hard work, it takes resilience. It has the same effect of compounding once you reach there. It's the same with emotional, it's the same with physical. So when you understand this process, when you execute this physically, I think it just gives you confidence. Okay, emotionally, financially, mentally, and socially also, it's the same process. So, yeah.
And in this journey, like when we started talking initially also, in this journey of you coaching so many people and running this company, what is that one common pattern you've seen in people when they give up?
So again, there's not one common pattern. I think there would be multiple patterns.
Okay.
Right. And one of the things I want to talk about is what you did.
Yes.
Which is you got the results.
Yes.
And then you celebrated your results.
Yes.
And after the celebration, you had this immense sense of guiltiness.
Yes.
So you never got back to your coach.
Yes.
But I want you to talk to her. How long has it been since
you spoke? It's been 4 years. 4 years. I have her number. I'm going to drop her a message
and
after
you
this.
Still haven't spoken to her in 4 years because of that one cheat meal.
Yes. Yes.
So I think that happens.
Okay.
And there's no reason why it happens. It just happens. So I think guilt definitely happens in people. Sometimes they go off track because they were not able to listen to the coach. And somehow they felt that the coach is going to judge them, even if the coach doesn't. They just somehow, don't get back to the coach, right? So getting off track. Then other things that happen is that people get too comfortable at times. When they get results, they get too comfortable and they feel that there's no necessity to sustain the results or increase the results. But there is always, because as we get older, everything becomes incrementally difficult. Our repair gets affected, our growth gets affected, right? So everything that favors you, the processes that favor you when you are younger, it gets completely reversed as you move into your 30s and 40s and 50s and so and so. Right? So people don't realize that. So that is second thing, carelessness basically. Third thing is people are impatient. Sometimes people look for results and then the results don't come. They don't realize that your body is organized in such a manner that it's not going to be a linear relationship.
Right.
So, for example, give you some example. I was just training one of my friends recently. And then she was like, Chesi, I'm not losing weight. And she's sleeping at 4 a.m. at night.
Oh boy. Okay.
Right. So even though she's sleeping at 4 a.m. at night, I'm constantly telling her, hey, it's your sleep which is affecting this. She's not ready to listen. Every day she's telling me, I'm trying to sleep, but I'm not able to sleep. I'm like, why are you watching Instagram reels at night? And she's like, right. So, and then finally she managed to lose like 1 kg over one day, right? Because her recovery got better, her sleep got better. Right? So sometimes people are impatient and they don't try to understand that weight is, it's not a linear relationship. There are so many factors in the body that can affect that. And unless you control for all of those factors, which is your hydration, your movement, your sleep, your stress levels, all of these things can contribute to your weight, right? So this results in impatience in people.
Okay.
They don't want to track, but they expect results.
Speaking about impatience, one thing that's trending right now is Ozempic, right? And
that's my favorite topic these days.
So Ozempic, and a lot of celebrities have been using that, and people look at it as a shortcut. Oh, I still can eat whatever I want. I can use this and I can lose weight. Talk to us about
it. So let's not talk about a specific brand.
Got it.
Let's talk about a GLP-1 analogs. Let's talk about GLP-1 agonists, and different class of drugs. So basically, when you consume food, you have short-term satiety hormones, you have long-term satiety hormones. So I'm sure everybody knows about leptin and your ghrelin. These are long-term satiety hormones. And previously, people thought that they had major role to play in your satiety signals, right? But that's not true. These are long-term satiety signals, and they have like function in satiety, but not as strong as a class of drugs that we also refer to as these incretins. So GLP-1 is one of those incretins, and anything that increases secretion of insulin is referred to as incretin. So GLP-1 is also incretin, and it is also a part of a family of drugs which are released in your intestine in response to food. So you have GLP-1, which is glucagon-like peptide 1, which your body releases when you consume, let's say, carbs, fats, and protein. And then you have peptide PYY, which is released when you consume protein. And then you have cholecystokinin, which is CCK. Right? So these three drugs, primarily, these three hormones, they control hunger in the body.
Okay.
Right? So when you consume a certain food, the body releases these hormones, and that's when you know that, okay, I'm done, like I'm feeling full, right? So that's why you don't perpetually eat. And no matter how big of a foodie you are, there is going to be a certain threshold.
And you stop.
Correct. Right? That's when you feel full. Right? So now in people who are chronically obese, because it's causing overstimulation, because you're constantly eating, the response of these hormones gets stunted over a period of time. Right? So you can literally overcome these signals.
Okay.
And what happens is that because you are able to overcome these signals, you don't feel the same sense of fullness or satiety. And also because, the reason why you have hormones that elicit response, that have a response to all three macronutrients, which is your protein, fats, and carbs, is because the body wants you to consume all three in the right proportions.
Okay.
So if you're not consuming any of these foods in the right proportion, the body will force you to obtain that macronutrient from any other food, even if it's present in smaller quantities. For example, let's say you're consuming a chocolate cake. A 100-gram chocolate cake might have 1 gram of protein, but you got 1 gram of protein, right? So body will think, okay, if this guy consumes maybe 1,000 grams of chocolate cake, I would be able to get, let's say, 10 grams of protein.
Okay.
Right. So that it's basically protein leverage.
Okay.
Right. So the body kind of tricks you into consuming the food if it detects that you are at least getting some amount of protein. And this is what happens with foods that are high in energy density, very poor in protein.
Okay.
Right. So this is what happens, and that's why when people consume foods which are low in protein, they end up over consuming them because the body is not feeling satiated. Because
the body needs protein, and because it has very little quantity, it says give me more so that I have more protein.
Yes.
Okay. It's quite interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the protein leverage hypothesis. It's pretty strong.
Okay.
Right. So now these hormones are there, and so they have stunted. So what the pharmaceutical companies, and again, this is not new. These drugs have been around for a very long time, but they are like different kinds of drugs. Right. So what an artificial GLP-1 agonist does is, it basically, you inject an analog, a GLP-1. So it increases the amount of circulating GLP-1 in your body, right? Because it's artificial, because you're taking it in a dosage, right? So it stays in your systemic circulation. See, internally, body, when it releases GLP-1, the half-life is very small. So it stays up for 2 to 3 minutes. And then after that, it suppresses.
Okay.
These drugs stay up in the system for up to a week. So if they are staying up in the system up to a week, you will constantly feel full. And so you can't eat now. And that's why when people go on GLP-1 drugs, they can't eat because they feel nauseated, they feel satiated, and it reduces your gut motility, the emptying. It reduces all of that. So you can't eat food.
Okay.
If you eat food, you'll throw up. If you try to overconsume, you'll throw up. So what happens is this puts you in a state of calorie deficit.
Okay.
And severe hypocaloric state. Right? So what happens is, even if you're consuming fats and carbohydrates, even if you're not consuming protein, now you're not over-consuming them. You can't, because the body's physiology is resisting you because there's enough amount of GLP-1 circulating in your system. Right? And as a result, you start losing weight. But because you're not consuming protein, you're also losing muscles. Right? So, and over a period of time, you build dependence to these drugs, because these drugs, it's very technical. So GLP so these hormones are basically messengers in the body, right? So when they have to perform an action, their action is basically, so hormones themselves don't do anything. They basically connect to receptor sites.
Okay.
And when they connect to the receptors pass on the message to different parts of body's physiology, and then the body does rest of the things, right? So these, for example, GLP-1 drugs, artificial GLP-1 drugs, they'll have to stay connected to the receptors.
The receptors, yeah.
And previously it was connecting for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Now it's connected for a week.
Okay.
So over a period of time. And these receptors are specialized receptors. They don't stay on the surface of the cell. They are usually hidden inside of the cell. They only come on the surface of the cell when there's a need. When the body releases tiny amount of GLP-1 for 2 minutes. So it will come out for 2 minutes.
Okay.
It will come out for 2 minutes.
Get the message.
And get the message, go back inside.
Okay.
Now, these receptors are constantly on the surface of the cell for a week.
Okay.
So what is it causing? It is causing the receptor dysfunction. It's causing receptor desensitization over a period of time.
It'll become immune.
It'll become immune.
Okay. Oh my God.
Right? So this, basically when this happens, what's happening? It's causing receptor, there's a term called internalization. And this can now start down-regulating every single gene which was taking part in this. So it can also down-regulate the expression of the genes which are associated with GLP. Because
it is not giving the right kind of an information to the genes. Because
no, it's staying on the surface of the cell.
Okay.
It's staying on the surface of the cell. So first, desensitization. Second, the receptor is also getting damaged. So you'll end up with less number of receptors now.
Okay. Okay.
And over a period of time, so short term, you'll get results. You know what happens when you try to take out toothpaste out of a paste. So when you squeeze it hard, first you get a lot of toothpaste. You keep squeezing it. Even in the last time you squeeze it hard and you take out too much of toothpaste. But there will come a point where the toothpaste will not have any paste left.
There'll be nothing left.
Exactly. So these GLP-1s, these GLP-1 drugs, they are basically squeezing your cells too hard. And so eventually you'll be left with, let's say, beta cell burnout, You'll have L cell burnout, and eventually you'll become desensitized. This is a permanent, irreversible damage that nobody's talking about. The companies that are launching these drugs, see, everybody talks about this another drug which they had approved back in 2008, some Azaratide or something. But that drug has a half-life of 2.5 hours.
Oh, okay.
It's still decent.
Okay.
You can't use the data from that drug, and that was strictly for diabetes, and it was not even very effective drug, to this drug, which has a half-life of 5 to 7 days. And you have not studied long-term effects. The maximum we have is like 2 years.
2 years, yeah, correct.
And then when they do these studies, right, a regulatory process has to follow. In this case, the approval was done on a fast-track basis. Why are you doing approval on a fast-track basis? Why are not looking for longitudinal studies? For example, a drug like ibuprofen, from discovery to distribution, it took 31 years. Approval process itself took 13 years.
Okay.
Semaglutide, the maximum you have is 2 years. There's no studies beyond 2 years.
Okay.
So why is everybody rushing to get this drug in the market?
This is scary.
It is scary.
And
they are promoting. They are doing mass distribution campaigns. They are talking to celebrities. Yes. Celebrities openly endorsing.
Yeah.
It's a prescription drug.
Okay.
Why are celebrities prescribing and talking and urging users to take this drug? It's illegal. Me as a social media influencer, somebody who understands science, can I do the job of a doctor? Can I prescribe a drug online? Can I disseminate information about a drug online? Can I urge people to take a drug because I've taken it? It's illegal. Why is nobody acting against those celebrities? How can a celebrity go on screen and say, I'm taking Ozempic, you take Ozempic? On what basis? Why are people not talking about the side effects? Why are people not talking about the lack of data, longitudinal data? Why are the studies which have proven and shown different kinds of side effects are not being talked about? Why are we prescribing these drugs to kids who are 10 years? You know, those guys are one of the biggest customers of these drugs.
Kids?
Yes. So between 2020 to 2023, the number of kids between the age of 12 to 22, these are adolescents, not big guys, right? Went from 9,000 people, 8 to 9,000 people a month to 60,000 people a month. Now, if you start giving these drugs to kids as young as those who've not even seen what real health means, who've never tried to exercise in your life,
exactly,
how do you expect those guys to grow up and ever have a normal life? When we created this fast food monster back in 50s and 40s and 60s, it was to solve the problem of freshness in food because we didn't have storage mechanisms. So they said fried food had a longer shelf life.
Okay.
Fast food had a longer shelf life. We didn't have refrigerators. Fresh food perished quickly. Okay. So we added preservatives. We packaged them. It was a convenient solution at the time. But people were also mindful. Now, in today's world, when the kids do not understand fresh food and they're growing in that environment of fast food, can you blame the kids for just sticking to fast foods and getting unfit? It took us 50 to 70 years to understand the damages that fast food industry that was trying to solve a problem did. Now you have another problem that you're trying to fix a problem that you created 50 years back by introducing a class of drugs that you have no long-term data on safety to these kids.
I mean, how is it so easily available now?
All big pharma.
Who's getting benefited?
Big pharma. Who else? Big pharma.
Is it only in India or across the world? Everywhere.
They've got, so they're very smart.
Okay.
They've got this regulatory approval fast-tracked in all the countries. And so they've got approval. My point is, why is our government sleeping? Why is CDSCO sleeping? Do we have any data on Indian population? I've spoken to my team. We would probably apply for a stay in the Supreme Court.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is unfair. Why is CDSCO approving these drugs in the Indian population when you don't have safety data in Indian population?
No, this is actually so scary.
It
Like
is.
this morning when I saw your profile that you were speaking about somebody who spoke about this, and I could sense a lot of anger.
I am angry.
I sense that when you reshared that story, but I actually understand the reason right now. I'm equally angry. I mean, it's for my children in the future. And if I'm misinformed and if I don't want to follow the path of doing it the right way, I would be enticed to take it. Everybody around me is taking it. It's fine. Okay, let us also take it. And now I think a lot of people, rather than being fit, they want to be thin.
They'll not end up thin.
Okay.
This drug is going to create more obesity, more diabetes.
Okay.
It's the nature of the drug.
Okay.
Did insulin reduce the number of type 2 diabetics? We have enough evidence. If you give insulin therapy in type 2 diabetics, it does not make things better. It's like giving them crutches for a few years, gives them lifeline. That's about it. Doesn't change anything. Makes things worse because it makes you put on even more weight. Same as with this drug. And somebody's like, oh, JC, you think we think you are getting threatened by this drug. Dude, I'm not threatened by this drug. See, I'm working in healthcare. It will take me 2 minutes to hire an endocrinologist, and I can sit here and claim that I can offer better treatment options with this drug and my coaches combined. It's an ethical choice we made to not prescribe this drug to people.
Okay.
So it's not affecting us. The fitness industry is not threatened. If anything, because of this drug, we'll thrive. We'll thrive more. More people will come to us.
Yeah.
Because how long can you take an expensive drug that's damaging you physically, mentally, cognitively? How long can you sustain? My biggest worry is it's going to get people poorer, mentally unhealthier, and physically
unfit.
And the far-reaching effects are going to be on the kids. Those are the guys I'm most worried about. See, adults are sorry for using these words, because look, you're making these decisions for yourself. If you are irresponsible, you deserve what's coming for you. The kids are the ones I'm most worried about because they didn't choose this. They are being born in a world where they're not making the decisions. The decisions are being made on their behalf. No responsible parent should allow their kids to get these drugs at an age of 8 to 10 or 12. It's just twisted, it's horrific, and the statistics are not very, encouraging. So yes, I'm angry.
Earlier you were talking to me about sleep and how you said you still don't go to bed by between 8 and 9.
Yeah.
I want to understand from an entrepreneur perspective, right? I do know this information. It's not like I don't know this information. And there are evidences to support that going to bed in time is really good for you.
Yeah.
Despite all of that, having so much to do with respect to your business and you have 2 children, how do you manage sleep?
No, I sleep for 8 hours.
Okay.
It's just that I can't sleep early.
Okay. Are there days where you can't sleep for 8 hours?
I mean, there are days which are like out of my hands, but my body has a natural mechanism. So if I sleep for 5 hours today because of some XYZ, my body will force me to sleep for 10 hours tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
So I can't function without sleep.
Okay.
And so if it gets to a point where like I can't sleep, then everything, like my body gives me signs.
Okay.
And because I train hard,
okay,
I must sleep for 8 to 9 hours. If I don't sleep, I can't function.
How many hours a day do you train?
So 1.5 to 2 hours.
Okay.
Sometimes less, but Saturday, Sundays, I make it up because on those days I train really, really hard.
Okay. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about the diet, right? Mm-hmm. So even when I was with a FITTR coach, the major emphasis was on the macros. Yeah. It was protein, fat, and carbohydrates. Yeah. So I wanted to understand, for example, when it came to carbs, I was allowed to eat bread.
Yeah.
It was white, brown, anything. They said, okay, brown is better, but if you have white, you can still eat that. My question is, so if I'm going to come down to that, say, 1,400 calories, I'm going to eat in a day. Yeah. These are going to be my macros, I'm managing them. Is it okay for me to eat processed food within that window?
Processed is fine. Ultra processed is not so fine.
What is the difference?
The difference between, because see, processing is not a bad term. Processing basically makes food more palatable. It makes it easily digestible, right? For example, you cannot consume raw wheat. right? When you cook it, it's kind of processing.
Okay.
Right? So when you make art out of raw wheat, that is also processing, right? So processing makes it's easier, the food easy for our body to process, digest, and absorb. Ultra processing is where you use science to please body's senses.
Okay.
Wherein you artificially add flavors, aromas, and different kinds of ingredients that can elicit a dopamine response. Right. So there's a major part of food engineering where they design foods in such a manner that you can't eat one of it. Right? Yeah, you can't eat just one. In fact, there's a tagline for some chips company. I can't take the name, right? So they design it in such a manner that it triggers a dopamine response.
Okay. So from the packaging to everything.
Everything.
Okay.
Right from the moment you look at it, to take the first bite, to the crunchiness, to flavor, to aftertaste, and you'll likely not face any stomach issues also.
Okay.
Yeah. So they design it in such a manner. So it's just junk calories basically.
Okay. What are junk calories which have no nutrients?
No nutrients.
Okay.
Calories.
Okay.
I mean, it has carbs and fats and everything, but no protein, no fiber, no micronutrients. Yeah.
All right. So if I'm going to eat clean Monday to Friday, and if I don't eat clean Saturday and Sunday, how does it still damage my body?
Basically, it's like, moving 4 steps forward and then 2 steps backwards.
Okay.
As long as you're only taking 2 steps backward,
You're
the average effect,
ahead.
you're still moving ahead, right? So that's how it works. But let's say you take 4 steps forward and then 4 steps backward, you're at the same point. Let's say 2 steps forward and 4 steps backward, actually going back. So it's similar.
Okay. What happens in the process of weight loss when you drink alcohol?
Alcohol is horrible. It's a foreign substance. It's not recognized by the body as something good, right? So it's the body tries to flush it out quickly, and alcohol has to be metabolized in the liver. So during the time alcohol is in your system, unless until it's flushed out, your liver is busy processing just the alcohol.
Only just removing that.
That, right? So the obvious effect on people who drink alcohol is that their metabolism kind of goes down. Right, because the alcohol stays in the body cannot process any of the other fats, carbs, and proteins. Right, so as a result, you gain weight.
Okay.
So one of the basic things, and that's why it's called beer belly and alcohol tummy and all those things. That's there. And on top of that, because alcohol is carcinogenic and it has both acetaldehyde and in some quantities there's also formaldehyde. Right, I mean, sure, people say there's no formaldehyde, but there have been studies where they have found formaldehyde in almost all major alcohol brands, right? So when you have these kind of carcinogens, and formaldehyde is the number one, like a class 1 carcinogen. When they interact in your body, they have, and when we say carcinogens, these are compounds that have carcinogenicity. They promote carcinogenicity in the body, which means that they can damage your DNA.
Okay.
And your DNA also holds instructions for how your cells need to operate.
Okay.
And when the instructions get damaged over a period of time, the cells stop behaving because now they are not following the set of instructions because they're damaged. That's what results in cancer cells. Right? And this can happen in your liver or any surrounding areas where you're constantly interacting with acetaldehyde or formaldehyde.
Is there any safe amount of alcohol that is permissible?
Look, WHO has said no amount of alcohol is safe, and I respect WHO, so I'll stick by their words.
Okay. Are men and women designed differently when it comes to workouts, when it comes to losing weight and gaining muscle?
Besides few traits, not much, really.
But why do we see so many men in the gym and not so many women in the gym?
That's because they've been conditioned to believe that they don't need to work out. They do.
Talk to us about it, because a lot of women still believe that doing weights and doing strength training will make them bulk.
Look, do women have bones? Yes. Do they have muscles? Yes. Are they going to get old? Yes. So as long as these things apply to women, they also have to go to the gym to protect against these effects. It's as simple as that. Because if you're going to get older, your joints are going to get fragile. If you don't have muscles to take the load of the body, your bones are going to get weaker. And after 30s and 40s, you do lose some percentage of your muscle mass every year due to age-associated sarcopenia. So it's there. So you have to protect against that. You have to go to the gym. You have to lift weights. There's very solid science on it. There's no refuting that evidence now.
So everybody talks about strength training and resistance training.
Yeah.
What happens in the body when we strength train?
So your cells become more resilient to wear and tear.
Okay.
Right. One of the first things that happen is that your cells become stronger.
Okay.
So you have your myonuclei, right? If we talk about at a cellular level, so basically what's happening is you have these different kinds of proteins and they're pulling each other, generating contractile forces, right? The ability to generate these contractile forces, the ability to pull each other apart, right? This basically is what defines how strong you are, right? So these contractile forces are coming from the proteins. And when you expose your body to regular stress, these proteins increase in the number of quantity. The myonuclei increase. They are able to produce more contractile forces. And the systems that drive this entire process, the mind-muscle connection,
okay,
right? They also become stronger. So the mappings become stronger over a period of time. So what's happening is that you are then becoming resilient to day-to-day physical wear and tear.
Okay.
Right. So because once you get old, you're exposed to some amount of wear and tear. It's like car staying in the garage, it's rusting. But if you put a paint on top of it, which is like a anti-rust paint, it does not wear wear and tear so easily. And similarly, if you take the car, keep it maintained, it does not wear down quickly. It's the same as with the body.
Right.
So when you exercise regularly, the cells become more resistant to these kind of wear and tear. If the cells are not resistant, you likely have a compromised immunity, multiple things.
So now doing yoga, is it similar to the effects, the benefits of strength training?
If you are doing advanced yoga.
Okay, what is advanced yoga?
So there's different kinds of poses. Most people don't go beyond Surya Namaskar. That's one of the many of the poses of yoga. If you go to advanced poses of yoga that are mimicking calisthenics in nature,
okay,
then those poses, even though they are isometric, they can put significant load on your muscles.
Okay.
Right. So if you are doing, let's say, I think Vrishtikasana, just to give you an example, right, as a scorpion pose, or Matsyasana, So again, all these different kinds of poses, they're very complex and they require both balance and strength to perform. Right. So when you keep practicing them, you become stronger. So you don't build like huge muscles, but your contractile forces still become better.
Okay. So, I mean, recently the Prime Minister also spoke about making India really fit, right? What do you think need to be the fundamental changes that need to happen as a society for this change to come about?
Right. So two things I would say. First, we need better leaders.
Okay.
Who emulate these qualities. Like I appreciate the Prime Minister because he's quite fit for his age and he eats clean, sticks to a routine. I've heard he is also doing some resistance training. So these are all good qualities of a leader. We want more leaders doing this. Right now, what we have so many political leaders who themselves are taking Ozempic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And forget about their own fitness journeys. They are like sitting with big tummies and diabetes and hypertension and all those things. That does not set a good example, right? So a collective will comes also from showing people how you should do it, not just talking about it. So one thing is that more leaders need to come out and show people that it's possible. We are doing it. Now you also do it. Set an example. Other thing is introduce these changes at a grassroots level in the schools.
How old is your daughter?
She's 11 now.
Okay. Do you talk to her about nutrition and all of that?
I talk to her about everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
How receptive is she about all of these
Extremely.
things? Okay. And especially this, you said she's 11, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The exposure to social media.
Yeah.
How difficult is it as a parent for you to kind of give that kind of a screen time and yet be watchful about it? How difficult is it for you?
So we are strict parents. We are not very casual, but we are more like, strict on a need basis. We are not strict about getting 100% marks in subjects. We are strict about screen time. She has a fixed screen time. We are strict about food habits. We are strict about her sports. We are strict about her, time she's spending on social media. Like she does not have social media. No.
Okay.
Right. So these are the things we are strict about. But it's more like a friendly relationship. Otherwise, she plays sport like every single day, 4 to 5 hours. We don't have any problem.
What
She's
does she
good at
play?
her. So she does basketball.
Okay.
And plays with her friends.
Okay.
Yeah. So every day, 3, 4, 5 hours, we don't mind. And she's good at studies.
Okay.
So she just got into grade 6 with all A and A++.
Okay.
So,
nice. Are you scared about the future for her?
I'm not scared about her.
Okay.
She has tendencies where she, I see a lot of me in her.
Oh, okay.
Except that she is maybe like twice as smart as I was at her age. So I think she'll do fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So now coming back to protein, right?
Yeah.
Do you think protein supplements or protein powder is necessary?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. So for a vegetarian, what are the best protein sources for them?
There's so many sources. But then again, you have to mix and match. Right? You have to understand that there are some limitations with some protein sources, not all. Right? And protein sources in vegetarian foods are not necessarily like the ratio is a little bit skewed. But if I have to give you the top choices, I would say soya derivatives. It could be tofu, tempeh, soy chunks, right? Then you have paneer, low-fat paneer. Then you have cereals. These are 5, 6 sources, and cereals may you have endless categories, right? So, for example, if I have to make a diet for you, you would eat one type of dal, chole, rajma. You can change that every day.
Okay.
Right? Instead of and one gravy you can use, it could be like a paneer gravy or tofu or tempeh. You can eat these. Then some amount of protein will also come from your chapati and rice, minor amounts. Then you can take curd. Curd is a great source of like small amounts, but good calories and probiotic and protein you're getting, right? So if you combine all of these together,
it's enough.
You end up with 70 to 80 grams of protein comfortably with anybody. Anybody can consume 70 to 80 grams of protein from vegetarian diet without any problems.
Okay.
From the same food that you're eating every single day. No problems.
Okay. Interesting.
The problem happens when you try to exceed, let's say, get to level of 150, which is, again, if you're like a athlete or like a serious gym goer and your primary focus is just building like a lot of muscles and everything, it makes sense. But otherwise, if you're like just looking at normal well-being, 80 to 100 grams of protein is very easily obtainable from vegetarian sources.
Okay. So do we need any kind of supplements? No. So
if you're eating enough vegetables, no.
Okay. So I saw the team had written magnesium upstairs. What is, I've heard a lot of people speak about like the benefits of it.
Yeah.
Why is it so important, magnesium?
See, magnesium is a cofactor in many different physiological processes, right? So the cofactors are basically, so in your body you have biological compounds, right? So you have enzymes, you have regulators, you have cofactors, and many other such things, right? So what happens is a chemical reaction cannot move forward if any of those things are not there in sufficient quantities, right? So metabolites. And sometimes what happens is that natural processes, they get affected. So, and your magnesium stores, for example, in your body, because magnesium is such a widely used cofactor throughout your body, it can get depleted if you're not consuming it enough from your primary food.
Okay. What are the best sources of magnesium?
Vegetables are there, so you have dark green leafy vegetables, they are a good source of. Then you have nuts, they are also sources of magnesium. I think walnuts have a good amount of magnesium. So I think there's different kinds of sources. Some of the seeds are a good source of magnesium.
All right. So you chose Rohit Sharma as a face and the brand, right? Why specifically Rohit Sharma? I'm very curious to know.
Yeah. Okay. So we wanted someone to reflect common people.
Okay.
In India, and that not that FITTR is exclusively for super fit people.
Okay.
right? And I have to clarify that we are not training him. Officially, ICCI guidelines doesn't make it easy for him to
train with you guys.
Because they have to train with their own coaches. They can't train with someone from outside, right? But there was a hope. There was kind of optimism, and that we'd be able to impact or contribute to his journey in some manner. And we still have that hope.
Okay.
The reason why we chose Rohit Sharma was that he was not affiliated with any other brands that were doing something which we didn't find to be ethical. Some other cricketers historically have promoted some things that we have vehemently disagreed with. Like, we don't believe in quick fixes and cheap shortcuts. And Rohit has never promoted any such brands, right? So we were looking for somebody who's clean. And that's why we went for him.
So when you worked with him, what was your biggest takeaway from him as a human?
He's an amazing guy. Like, his temperament is it's brilliant. He's amazing. There's a good reason why he's Rohit Sharma. He's unfiltered, raw, clear-hearted, very simple and straightforward guy.
Okay.
And he's good. He's good. And he knows he's good. Yes. He's
basis what are you saying this? There should be some interaction that you've had that made you believe this about him.
I had a hour-long podcast with him.
Okay.
So I spoke to him. It's available.
Okay.
So when somebody is talking, right, so you can tell if the person saying something also believes in it, right? So every time he said those things, I could see it in his eyes that he believed in those things what he was saying, right? So
I've also been curious. So you work with the Kamath brothers, right? Like, they've invested in your company. What did you learn from them?
I think they are one of the biggest pioneers in India. I think I feel like there's like Ratan Tata and two versions of him in the making.
Okay.
Yes, they are doing a lot of good for people.
Okay.
And in many different ways. Some people can see, some people cannot see. I'm a much bigger fan of Nithin than Nikhil.
Okay.
Because I've interacted with Nithin more, maybe.
Got it.
Yeah. And Nikhil feels like a younger brother. I'm not sure if he's older than me.
I think he's 36, right? 36 or 30.
So then I'm right. Then he feels like a younger brother, whereas Nithin feels like a big brother.
Okay.
So I look up to Nithin. And I feel like, as long as he's there, you feel very comfortable and safe. He's a great guy.
But both of their personalities are completely different.
Very different.
Yeah? Tell me about it. I'm very curious about them. Both of them very different personalities, yet they come together to run an amazing company.
I think that's the beauty of this, right? They're very different based on my limited interactions with both, right? They're amazing in their own ways. I think Nikhil is more curious. He can talk. He talks a lot, and in a good way. And I think he's more curious also in a way. Whereas Nithin is not as curious as him. He doesn't talk as much, and he only talks when it's needed, right? Nithin also has a slightly more serious demeanor. He's also more fitness oriented.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Nikhil not so much.
But he's also become super fit,
now
right?
He has. Yeah. Now he has.
Yeah. But Nithin has always been fit.
Has always been fit.
I remember my husband speaking about it even before I knew about Zero. That back in 2016, he was like, there was this one picture of Nithin, because my husband's name is also Nithin. He's like, that's how I remember one picture of Nithin. And there was some goal. He had written something saying, my goal is to bring my fat percentage to so-and-so.
And he did.
And he's had this vision for a very, very long time. So he's always been this fitness freak.
Yes.
Right?
Actually, their relationship is kind of like me and my brother's relationship.
Oh, okay. You have a younger brother.
Yes.
Okay. So you are like Nithin.
I would like to think so, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Got it. But yet they're so humble.
They are extremely. I think so there's this, obviously you have that aura, right?
Yeah.
When you are like in such a position where you have like billions of dollars of business and everything. So people do tend to put you on
a pedestal,
yes. Right? So as a complete newbie, you would go and you'd be like, you'd feel a sense of intimidation, but you don't feel that around those guys.
Okay.
It's crazy. It's crazy how you don't, because I have interacted with some people.
Okay.
And they have that like you do feel that sense of intimidation because they're surrounded by security, they're surrounded by, like layers and layers of people, the way they talk and everything, like very close guarded. But you don't feel like that around Nithin and Nikhil. I feel like normal guys.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Before we could conclude with one last question, I have a bunch of questions to ask you, which is more like a myth or truth. So I just call out that you tell me if it's a myth or truth. Lifting weights will make women bulky.
That's a myth.
You should always stretch before you work out.
That's a good idea.
But is it necessary?
No.
No? Oh, okay. Cardio burns more fat than weight training.
Technically, yes, but it's irrelevant.
Why?
Okay, so in theory, yes, cardio would burn more fat because you're constantly keeping your heart rate high. And when you are doing lifting, it's generally in a low intensity training, right? So the demand for oxygen is going to be higher when you are doing cardio. Demand for oxygen when you're doing weight training is going to be low, right? So you can also see that in a 1 hour cardio session, you typically burn more calories. In a 1 hour weight training session, you typically burn less calories. But because during cardio, you're not building muscles. It's not contributing to your long-term basal metabolic rate, your BMR.
Got it.
Building muscles is contributing to your BMR. So over a period of time, your BMR goes up.
So then, because of more muscle mass, you burn more calories.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. You can spot reduced fat in specific body parts.
No, can't.
After 40, it's too late to build muscle or reverse aging.
Look, reverse aging is technically not possible. What we call it as aging optimally.
Okay.
Right. So you can't reverse age. Sure, your biological age may reflect age which is less than your true age, but that does not mean you're reversing your age.
Does your biological age represent less than your true age?
For a lot of people, yeah, including me.
Okay. That's because of consistently eating clean and working out.
Yes.
Okay.
So because the comparison being done with the general population.
Got it.
Yeah, because you're comparing it with general population. So what the way they calculate all these things, again, see, healthcare is not.
Go ahead, say it.
I don't want to say it. Okay, so it's not accurate. Nothing is 100% accurate, and there are so many things that when you learn about it, you'll be like, what? I thought this would be more sophisticated. It turns out it's not. It's kind of dumb. So basically, what we do is and it's not. I mean, so look, we have a population out there, right? And this population is healthy at different levels. So what we have done is we've collected data for these guys. We've collected biomarkers for these guys. Right? We have Biobank, we have NHNS, we have Asia Biobank. Right? So we have different biobanks, and so we know that at this age, people have these biomarkers. Right? So basically, what you do is when you say your biological age is this,
you're
comparing with the average population. So if your biomarkers match with that of an 18-year-old guy,
then you're
basing that, you are saying my biological age is 18.
Okay.
So you're not reverse aging. It's just that your parameters are like that of an 18-year-old guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Walking is enough exercise for aging parents?
No, it's not enough. It's a good start, but they have to do weight training if they really want to improve their lifespan.
Okay. You need supplements to get fit?
Absolutely not.
Protein powder can damage kidneys?
Adulterated ones, the ones containing heavy metals, sure.
Okay. Skipping meals helps you lose weight faster?
Kind of trick question. Technically, yeah, it does. Because you'd be in calorie deficit and you will lose weight. Is that the right way to do it? No.
What's your opinion about intermittent fasting?
It's okay. Like, don't do intermittent fasting and stay in calorie surplus, or don't do intermittent fasting and then go on 800 calories. Both are dangerous. So you have to be in a deficit which is sustainable.
Okay. Detox juices cleanse your body?
Garbage.
Cold plunges accelerate muscle recovery?
Actually, they impair muscle recovery.
Yeah?
They impair muscle growth, not recovery. They can help with the recovery process to some extent in athletes, not everybody. But they do impact muscle growth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fit founders have more discipline and drive?
I don't know.
But based on the people that you've seen?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Work-life balance is a myth if you're building something big?
I think your work and life kind of blends in. And again, this is like a long philosophical question.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's exactly a myth,
Mhm.
but it's not exactly a reality also. It's not like 0 to 1.
Okay.
You sway from one.
It's not black or white.
It's not black or white.
Okay. Successful founders have it all figured out.
Absolutely not.
More protein is equal to more muscle.
No.
You can outtrain a bad diet.
Not really.
Okay. Fitness is 80% diet and 20% training.
No.
What is the ratio?
There's no, like I said, see, these kind of things, we can theoretically say all these things,
Okay.
but there's no evidence that it's 80%, 20%. It's like a good general yardstick.
Okay. Skipping breakfast helps burn fat.
I mean, yes and no.
Mhm.
Sure, if you skip breakfast, you'll burn some fat, but if you consume more calories towards the later half of the day, it'll compensate and you'll gain more fat. So it depends on calorie deficit.
Okay. One fitness influencer you truly admire.
In India or outside?
In India.
In India, I think I would name Dr. Abby Phillips.
Okay.
Then we have Masala Labs.
Okay.
These two guys are really good.
Krish Ashok. What's your guilty pleasure snack?
I eat everything that I want to eat.
Yeah.
So there's not something I crave.
Okay. So generally when you become fit and when you're eating healthy, your cravings also naturally go down?
No, I mean, who said I eat absolutely healthy? See, it's about measuring the ingredients. As long as you're measuring the ingredients, you can make anything. You yourself said you were eating biryani every day.
Yeah, that's true. Every day for 1 month, I used to have chicken biryani. It was amazing.
Yep.
One book or podcast you always recommend to people?
Book or podcast? Okay, so recently I have started recommending Dr. Mike's podcast.
Okay.
You know Dr. Mike, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So his recent podcast with Jason Fung.
Okay.
It was pretty good.
Okay.
So a lot of people who believe that carbohydrate insulin model of obesity still works and still keep quoting Jason Fung, go and watch that podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
One last question. One word that defines your journey.
Accidental.
JC, I mean, I don't know what to say, because people's perception about you is more of, okay, he's into fitness, he's into working out and all of that. But you understand, like how you said, since when you were a child, I think that's been your greatest quality, for you to have the curiosity and go dive deep into every single thing. What you literally told me, so much of what you spoke was more like a masterclass for me to understand more about how food breaks down, what happens to your body, which I think is a very, very, very necessary information for everybody out there. What is that one message you would give to people who are watching this podcast?
So again, this is not related to fitness. I believe, and again, because since you pointed out about curiosity, I'll maybe talk about curiosity. See, we live in a world where we are heckled by those above us, and they constantly gatekeep. They don't want us to learn. They throw titles at us. But see, we need to understand that these people are not, they're not purveyors of truth. They are not anointed gatekeepers of science, right? Who anointed them? So you can be a purveyor of truth in your own way. You can understand science in your own way, and you can disseminate science in your own way, right? If you are curious and you learn something and you understand something, it is your responsibility to pass it on to people. And, I have, like I said, I have this innate desire to educate people. I think more people need to cultivate the similar kind of a desire. Not for views, not for likes, just for a bunch of people who are out there watching you, to move our society in a right manner. Because if you just do it for likes and views and clout, you are becoming a part of a devolving society. And I have to say this, that our society is devolving. It's not evolving.
Okay.
Right. So we'll need fighters. We'll need people who have their ethics in place. And we'll need businesses also. Right. So, and it's not a lost cause. It's not a lost cause. Over a period of time, you realize that people will see you as a hero.
Mm.
They will like you, which everybody wants eventually. And so keep fighting for the right cause.
Mm.
And start today and develop that curiosity, cultivate that mindset of hustle, of learning, and just pass it on. That's what I want to say. Yeah.
Beautiful. I had a fabulous time having this conversation with you. Thank you so much for the time, and thank you so much for all the insights that you've given.
Thank you.